Hi, I'm Sierra Morris and this is Chuck and the Chicks. In this video, I'll be talking about reducing aggressive behavior in your backyard flock. Aggressive behavior in your backyard flock is really undesirable. Aggressive chickens can harm themselves, each other, and you. What factors make a chicken become aggressive and what can you do to address this? Individual bird and breed temperaments are going to vary greatly. Some chicken breeds are known for being less hand-tame and less friendly than others. Individual bird temperaments are also going to be very different too. Even among especially friendly breeds, sometimes there is just that one chicken whose temperament doesn't align with their expected breed traits. Handling, health, and environment also all play a factor in your chicken's temperament. The most important thing to understand is that chickens don't behave aggressively out of meanness or out of malice. Chickens are livestock animals and they make choices based on their instinct. If a chicken is acting aggressive, it's not an emotional response, but instead it's an animal attempting to address an issue with their instincts. Roosters are most often wrongfully labeled as aggressive for demonstrating perfectly normal and natural behaviors in defense of their flock. Addressing aggression in roosters is its own separate topic, so I will touch on it lightly here and return to it in depth more at a later time. This is why I don't recommend roosters for backyard flocks with families with small children, because roosters will interpret encroaching on their flock space, loud noises, and chaotic movements as a direct threat to the safety of their flock, and they'll act accordingly. It's possible to hand tame and train roosters, and they can make great pets. However, this takes dedication, time, and commitment. As a safety measure, if this sounds like too much work for your situation or you have small children, I would highly recommend not adopting a rooster. Hens will lay eggs without a rooster. The role of a rooster is to protect his flock and to serve as hens to provide for the next generation of chickens. You don't need a rooster to get eggs from your hens. You'll only need a rooster if you want one for flock protection or if you want fertile eggs that can be hatched into chicks. Aggression within your backyard flock should first be addressed as a possible medical or environmental issue before assuming the chicken has a bad demeanor. Chickens, when their basic needs are provided for, are calm, productive, and happy animals. If you're seeing signs of aggression, here are some possible causes you might want to consider. Inadequate space. This is an extremely common cause of unwanted aggression in your backyard flock. A standard-sized chicken needs at least 4 square feet of coop space and 8 square feet of run space. Bantams need approximately half of that, and larger breeds will require more. These numbers are considered the bare minimum. More space is always better. Without adequate space, chickens will become irritated, peck and pull feathers from one another and themselves, and in some extreme cases, inadequate space can even cause cannibalism among your flock. If you suspect you have too many chickens in your current space, here are some possible solutions that might help. Expand the space available to your chickens if at all possible. There are lots of different fencing options, including movable and removable fencing, that could help you expand their area where they're able to free range and roam to give them more space options. You can create a channel, a chicken activity tunnel, to allow your flock members to have more space during the day, and plans for these can be found easily online. Provide your chickens with additional roosting space constructed from either 2x4s or forage branches. Remove any sharp edges from your new perches to ensure they don't harm your chickens' feet. Provide regular enrichment activities. Bored chickens are aggressive chickens. Vegetables on strings, treat treasure hunts, save toys, and objects to climb are all possible low-cost enrichment ideas. Competition for resources, especially food. If your backyard flock doesn't have adequate access to proper nutrition, this can cause a host of issues, including aggression. Not enough food, or the wrong kind of food, meaning unbalanced or incomplete feeding methods, can cause aggression. Forage alone is not sufficient to feed your backyard chickens. While forage can provide for a portion of your chicken's diet, you have to provide feed for your backyard chickens of some kind. While ration feeding may be appropriate for some situations like meat birds, for example, I highly recommend free feeding your backyard chickens, if possible, to avoid underfeeding and aggression. Be aware chicken foods like scratch grain and cracked corn are not complete chicken feeds and should be given as treats, not as your chicken's primary source of calories. Here are some feeding methods that have worked for us here on our micro homestead. Free feed your backyard chickens if possible using a low maintenance dispenser. I use the hanging feeders, which have worked great for us, but there are many different designs to choose from. A livestock safe dish is also fine. Just be sure at the end of the day to collect any uneaten food and remove the dish at night to avoid attracting predators to your chicken area. If you're using a dish, also make sure that the portion is enough to feed the entire flock for the whole day. You may consider using multiple dishes if you're using this method to avoid chickens competing for that one single dish, and that will also help reduce aggression. But again, the hanging feeders have worked absolutely great for us. Free feeding not only reduces aggression, but it also helps mitigate dangers like gorging and choking. Feed a nutritionally complete layer feed to your backyard flock. Box store brand is fine. It doesn't have to be the fancy stuff. You can upgrade later if possible or if you want to. You can also ferment your feed to increase the nutritional availability to your chickens. If you're fermenting feed for the first time, do so in a small batch just to make sure it ferments well. You can also supplement with kitchen scraps, which in addition to being a nutritious treat, are also an enrichment activity. Scraps are meant to be served as a treat alongside your complete layer feed, not as a substitute. Provide multiple feeding stations to your backyard flock. This is especially important if you have a mixed flock like us, when you have a combination of breeds and sizes of chickens. The pecking order and competition for food can be fierce. Providing multiple feeding stations ensures that chickens with lower status within the flock are able to eat without harassment. Inadequate rooster to hen ratio. A rooster can reliably service up to 7 to 10 hens just by himself. Multiple roosters will eventually compete with each other for flock dominance. If your backyard numbers don't reflect this ratio, here are a few options you can consider. You can construct a bachelor pad for your excess roosters. You can add additional hens to your flock for flock balance. You can responsibly rehome your extra roosters. As a last result, you can consider culling extra roosters. Please do not attempt to cull a chicken without doing adequate research about how to do so humanely first. Stress. A stressed flock will behave erratically, aggressively, be less productive, and not live as long. Stress negatively impacts the entire health of your flock. Some forms of stress include adding new flock members, unaddressed predator attacks or harassment, inadequate space, loud noises or disruption to their sleep schedule, inadequate or unsanitary housing, disease, or inadequate food. Chickens do best in stable, safe environments where they have adequate space and resources. An inconsistent care routine or disruptions to their natural daily behavior and schedule can result in aggressive, unhappy, and unproductive birds. Perform regular health checks on your flock. Be aware of any signs of distress among your chickens, including but not limited to respiratory distress, signs of parasites, limping, any chickens isolating themselves, unexplained feather loss, discolored combs and wattles, signs of blood or blood spots, loss of energy or appetite, or any other kind of concerning behaviors. Address the source of the ailments appropriately. Regularly clean and maintain your chicken areas. A clean coop and run preserves not only your chicken's health, but also contributes to a calmer demeanor as well as interflock harmony. Maintain a regular care routine. Create a schedule for your chickens that works for you and that will also work for your flock. Chickens thrive in a calm and predictable environment. Make sure your chickens aren't being harassed at night. Nighttime predators and disruptions can cause significant distress to your flock. Investigate to be sure your chickens aren't being woken up in the middle of the night by visits from an undetected predator or other kinds of possible disruptions. In extreme cases, you might consider isolating especially aggressive flock members. Be aware that any time you remove a chicken from the flock, it impacts the pecking order. I would only consider this in extreme cases, but it may be necessary to isolate an especially aggressive flock member for up to 3 days in their own separate area with their own food, water, and grit, and then slowly reintroduce them back to the flock. I would only consider doing this again in extreme cases because any removal and reintroduction of a flock member causes stress to your chickens. Spend time with your flock. One of the ways you can deter aggression in your backyard flock is just by spending time with them, regularly and consistently. If the only interaction you have with your flock is on a bare minimum basis while you're maintaining their area, they're most likely going to continue to see your presence as a threat. Regularly and intentionally interacting with your chickens and spending additional time with them makes them more tame and less aggressive. Spend additional time during your maintenance routine just being in their space with them. You can try placing a lawn chair in an area they have access to and sitting with treats. Slowly curious members of the flock will approach you, and this is an opportunity for some positive interactions. If you sit calmly and quietly with your flock, they will adjust to your presence, and slowly the more curious members will eventually approach you. Do this consistently and repeatedly to begin to tame your chickens and help them begin to regard your presence as a positive thing. As an absolute last resort, you can consider culling especially aggressive members of your flock. I would absolutely attempt all of the other mitigation methods first and rule out anything medical before resorting to this. Make sure that you do adequate research about how to do so humanely if you decide this is your only option. I hope the information in this video was helpful to you. If you're enjoying my content, please like, share, and subscribe. We would love to have you as part of our flock. Lots of love from our coop to yours. See you next time.